don't always expect clicks to your website when you're doing an email marketing program. Sometimes, especially right now, people don't want to see your website. They just want to reply to your email. So put in as a call to action, if you want to reply to me and jump on a call, I'm here. That is just at the bottom of your email. And you might find that people are like, okay, I'll reply. Yeah, I'm interested. Let's jump on a call. That people like that personal touch right now.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Digital Report podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about email marketing. And I've got a treat for you guys because we have Duncan Gledhill, who's the founder of Email Movers, which is UK's leading full service email marketing agency. So we're going to have some good gems being dropped by Duncan there. So welcome, Duncan. Welcome to the Digital Report podcast.
Hey, Jatinder. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I know we've been talking about getting on doing this for a while, and with lockdown and everything happening, is quite interesting, right? So yeah, Duncan. How? Let's start off with how you got into email marketing. What's the history?
Sure. Okay, so great stories, really. 20 odd years ago, I was working for a company in Germany that did cloud surveys, but it did them in the cloud. And it was one of the earliest technologies that had gone into the cloud at that time. That company folded. It was a little startup in Germany. I came back to the UK and I looked for other companies that were doing stuff that was in the cloud, and email marketing was just about getting there. So I applied to a few, and they looked at my experience selling solutions that were cloud-based, and they said, yeah, okay, we'll give you a go. So that's really where it all started.
Oh, fantastic. So how would you say the whole kind of scene of email marketing has changed from there to now? It's a big kind of thing, but it's just to put some perspective.
That's a big thing. I mean, it's gone through so many different changes over the years. We obviously, the industry started with sending emails to your newsletter subscribers. That's where it started. A website is great, but then you would have a registration form and people would register, and then they would go into a list, and you would then look to send them an email. But instead of buying a solution and installing it on a server and maintaining it and all that kind of stuff, you would just use a solution in the cloud, and that would just do everything for you. You'd log into a website, you'd create your email and send it. And then, of course, with the realization that clicking send generated money because people come to your website and buy your products and services, people thought, wow, this is incredible. How do we scale it? And then, of course, it was a conversation around cold email outreach. Well, I suppose we can get email contact details for people who aren't yet our customers and send them an email and ask them if they want to buy from us. So that's when, of course, we've got lists being uploaded and emails going out. And then it moved a little bit further down the line. Instead of you buying data on a cost per thousand, it was, well, I don't want to send out millions of emails. I want to just buy the leads that come in. So it moved to CPL. Then it was like, well, you send emails for me, and I'll just buy the customers that you're generating for me. So it went to cost per acquisition. And then it stopped for a while because cost per acquisition was great, but you've got to have a lot of tracking in place, because obviously, my guy, I've got 100 customers, but I'll tell the guy that I've only got 2. And then I don't have to pay him as much. And that created shockwaves when companies started doing that. So obviously the publishers or the companies that own the data at the time stopped doing that model and reversed back to either CPL or CPM. And that's really where it stayed. There are some models around CPA that do work reasonably well, But if the tracking breaks, the relationship's finished forever normally. And it normally breaks when there's a lot of sales happening. There are some pretty good engines out there to track it, but CPL is okay. But CPM, with the granular detail of the data that's available now, is by far the best way to go. It's buying small volumes and sending highly relevant emails to that data. So that's kind of where we're at now. And as you can see, that's quite a jump from the beginning.
So just quickly, so just in case some of the listeners don't know what CPL and all the
Oh, sure, of course, yeah. So CPL is cost per lead, yeah.
Cost per
and
lead.
CPA is cost per acquisition. So you only pay for the customers that it generates for you.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And so what's so you're saying that before you used to started off with the whole kind of newsletter model,
Yeah.
And over the years that changed. How are you guys doing things now? Like what's kind of working in the market space?
Yeah. So the most I suppose interesting thing about email is that it's never really stopped progressing. I know it's been around a long time and it's nowhere near as sexy as Facebook and Google and all this kind of stuff, but it's one of the first channels to market, and it's still there and it's still progressing, and that's because it's neutral. No one owns email. Google PPC in theory is owned by Google, isn't it? It's the most powerful company in the world if you want to do that. Social media is owned by Facebook. Well, if they don't like you, they turn you off and your business model can collapse. And that is pretty significant risk for any company. Whereas email, no one can really turn you off. Mm-hmm. So it's a very safe channel to be testing and to be using and to be trying to scale. And where those tests have got us at the moment, and I never stop testing, is if I write you an email, Jatinder, and I want to sell you, let's say, some accountancy software, then it's going to help if I know what you're using at the moment. So let's think maybe you're using a spreadsheet. So if I send you an email saying, you know what, Jatinder, I know that using a spreadsheet to do your accounts is an absolute pain. This application that I've created is going to save you several hours a week. It's going to enable you to, automatically chase payments, creditors, blah, blah, blah. All of these things that at the moment you have to do manually. Do you want me to show you a demo of it? Do you want to jump on a call? Well, that email's more likely, because it's quite specific and because it's relevant to your situation right now, it's quite likely it's going to cause a pattern disruption when you're reading that email. You're going to read it and think, oh, hang on, this is relevant to me, and this is actually something that's of value to me. So it's not only relevant, but it's also valuable, and it's a one-to-one email. So I'm going to just reply and say, hey, Duncan, it's Jatinder here. Yeah, I'd like to jump on a call. When's good for you? Or maybe a Calendly link or something like that. Now, being able to do that at scale is where the magic is right now, because we've got access to data at a granular level. We can tell what types of systems companies are using or not using, when they installed it, or when, we've got all of this information at our fingertips. So now we just need to create the one-to-one relationships between people using the right copy. And that's where just today I've been testing copy created by AI. And that is unbelievable, because I'm not a copywriter, and that is good stuff. I don't know if have you tried this stuff. Is you put 3 words in and it writes you like a 200-word document from 3 words, and
wow,
you read through it and it's like, what, are you kidding me? How good is this stuff? And that's where
heard about that stuff. I haven't utilized it at the moment. Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
That's going to be an interesting space. The whole that because that's a very, very valuable resource, I think, for people.
No, definitely. We'll get into the AI conversation in a second. There's like three things that kind of came out of what you were just talking about. One is like, if you look at the customer, they say build your database, build your list kind of thing, right? So you got the customer side of things when they're actually trying to build their database, right? Then you got the other side of it where you actually buy the data, which is where I think you guys excel at, is when you've done the research and all that kind of side of stuff. And then obviously now you got the AI kind of element of it. So if you take those three things, I think it's good information for the listeners is that what's important for the person who's trying to build a list, right? We'll start with those ones first. Like what advice and tips would you have for them guys to be able to build a list and how to go about the whole kind of targeting side of things? What are your suggestions on that?
Yeah. So don't rely on one channel. Mm-hmm. So if you put all of your eggs in the Facebook basket or in the Google PPC basket, then you might have success with a campaign or two or multiple campaigns, in fact. And that success, the result of it might be that your email list starts to grow. But what you can often come across is that actually from one day to another, Google performs differently. And that can start to have an impact on the size of your list and the amount of data that you're collecting. Your campaign might stop working. You don't know why, but the algorithm has changed. Now your campaign's not being shown to anybody. So there's nobody visiting your website. So there's nobody registering and there's nobody ending up on your list. Now, if you rely on that one channel to feed your list and nothing else, you're in trouble, because now all of the bases of your business are collapsing because your one campaign that's been feeding you has stopped working. The same with Facebook and the other different channels. So what I think is really important is that you have multiple channels feeding the list that you're trying to grow. Don't just do cold email outreach. Don't just do PPC. Don't just do Facebook. There's Quora, there's Medium, there's Reddit. There are so many different platforms out there. There's this new Clubhouse that everybody is shouting about that you invited me to, which was great. Thank you very much for that. I've been on, checked it out. Looks quite interesting. But use all of these channels to feed the list. Then if you have a problem with one, it doesn't necessarily have a massive impact on that growing database. And that you just need to have your database growing, because when you send a campaign to your database, you will make money if it's a sales campaign. If you send a value email to your database, then you will deliver value. It's the shortest cut to your clients, isn't it?
Oh no, absolutely. So that's you're absolutely right, because we know that over the years, it's the stuff we were doing like 10 years ago is not working in the same way as what's going on in industry at the moment. So it was easier to, I suppose, give away the freebie, build up the database from that kind of perspective. But it's become a lot harder because everyone's doing it. So when people come across these things, they're like, oh, not another one kind of element, right? So, what advice would you give people for, I suppose, that side of things? Like, what could they do effectively in order to actually capture the person at the point when they land on a squeeze page, for example?
Yeah, so this is interesting because you only really want people on your list who want to be on your list, if you know what I mean. You don't want to have people going onto your list, and I'm talking about your in-house list now.
Yeah,
you only want people on there that are pretty interested in what you're doing, because that list is really important to your business. And if there's a lot of people who have no interest whatsoever in your business on that list, then it's just going to burn a lot of your time, because you're going to think that they're interested. Oh, this person's obviously registered because really interested in my company, but they're not. I've seen campaigns going out through different channels where the giveaway is obviously attractive to anybody. They don't have to have an interest in your business. They just love the giveaway. And so that's why they're registered. When you call them and say, would you like to buy an accounts package? They're like, no, it's got no interest to me whatsoever. I only wanted the giveaway that you were putting out there. So it's like, well, you don't really want those people on the list. So when people do come through to your website, and you are wanting to get them to register, make sure that the reason they're registering is the correct reason. So you want to, for example, have people that have asked you for a quotation. Can you tell me how much it would cost to buy this product? There's a clear indication there that that is of interest to that person. They're not going to waste your time when your sales team are calling the people that have opened the emails from the campaign that went out this afternoon. There's a reason why they're calling. And, if they make 200 calls, they could have 100 good conversations over a period of 2 or 3 days, So I guess what I'm saying is make sure the people that end up on your list are high quality people, high quality prospects. In order to do that, make sure that the reason they're registering has been well thought out.
So, so what you're basically suggesting that whatever you're doing should be relevant to your target audience, because that allows you to be highly targeted, right?
Yeah, relevant. You can make let's say an ebook on improving your SEO. That can be relevant to somebody, but they may not necessarily be looking to buy an SEO solution or outsource it to someone. They may just want it because they're doing it all themselves, and they're going to find it valuable. The person that you'd like to have on your list is the person who is actually who's downloaded the article that says the 10 best ways to choose a company to do your SEO for you, because you know that they're in that space where you want them to be. So, probably not the best example in the world, but that one question or that one giveaway can make the difference between a very, very effective list and a not so effective list or a time wasting list.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, because now you're talking about like, where is your customer on their buying decision, on their buying journey, right? In their business, what is it that they're looking for potentially at that moment in time as they're landing on your site?
Yeah.
And what you're offering, is that really in line with the kind of service you're trying to provide at the end of it, or are you just trying to capture everybody, right?
Yeah, and don't go for the latter. It is, you can do that different ways. We have 9,195 contacts who have asked us for a quote, and those people are on our list. And we know that every single one of those people has asked us for a price, and that's why they've got onto the list. Then we've got another list which is different, then we've got another list which is different, and so on and so on. And it runs a little bit like train tracks. We start with a cold list who never heard of us. Then we take an engaged list, those people that opened and looked at it. Then we've got the people that asked us questions and were sales qualified. And then finally, we've got the people that said, well, can you give me a quote? So you've almost got multiple lists growing based on the stage that person's at in their journey with you or in their relationship with you. So it's all about relationships, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're doing the segmentation side of things to find out where they are. So you can actually put a relevant offer in front of them, right? Let's talk a bit about the relationship side of things, because that's all about the connection, the rapport, resonating with them. That's
rapport, man.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your kind of initial tips and suggestions in regards to that?
So it's a great question, because right now we're in a changing landscape, because obviously with the current situation, people are at home, and as a result of working from home, there are probably different circumstances that they find themselves in different circumstances. So the relationships point is very, very strong. It's important to, I think, when talking to people, get straight to the point. Don't mess around too much. People do want to know what it is that you're offering. And it's, I saw a post on LinkedIn yesterday, and this guy had put a really beautiful picture of a lion, and it was great. And then he'd said, double click on the picture below for a surprise. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay. And I double clicked, being, I wouldn't say a novice at it. I kind of thought, is this a new feature in LinkedIn or something? And I just liked the picture. and he had 513,000 likes. And then below, he had 1,500 comments. And when I started to read them, they were all people that were really peeved at him for just conning them into double clicking the image and liking his picture. And the first few he tried to answer, it was like, oh, it's about social media. And then he'd given up answering and started to delete some. And then he'd given up deleting them, and then he just apologized. Look, I didn't mean to fool people, because this one lady had said, look, I feel as though you totally conned me. How's that help your brand? So, don't go in there with anything that isn't, this isn't clickbait. People want a real relationship. If you're using Salesforce and you need you've got a problem and you need a solution for that problem, if you can find that out at mass and offer people that solution, get straight to the point and try and get them onto a call. People want to come away from the screens, they want to jump on a call, and they want to talk about the challenge that they've got and see if you can solve it. And it's one-to-one text emailing that can help you do that, or it's HTML with clicks through to a website where you can book a live chat or a Zoom call. Do you know what I think is going to come soon? I think live support rooms where you can click on a link and you see the person just like I'm seeing you. My camera is turned off, but I can see his camera and I can talk to a person about a problem I'm having with GoDaddy, or, that I think we're going to get to that point. I don't want to talk to bots anymore. I try to figure out what letter combinations I need to do to get a human to talk to me.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, no, that's. I think you're right. I mean, do you think we've kind of done a full circle to some degree? Because like before, it was all about that, the customer service, the one-to-one, face-to-face communication. Then we went into this online space, but now it's like, okay, let's use it online, but let's have those real conversations.
Yeah. I mean, my dad used to work for Lucas Aerospace, and he would travel to see all of his clients. He was a marketing guy there, and he would actually fly around the world and talk to people about airplane engines, and they would look at the airplane engine. The only difference now is that we have accelerated the communications, the speed at which we can communicate, because he would have had to send a letter, I guess, or booked a plane ticket. And now I can send an email, I can jump into a VR room, we can have a look at the engine, we can see what wind forces it's creating. We can do it a lot faster, but people still want that connection. They don't, and now I think we're getting to the point where, we've got the speed of communication and we've got the depth of connection as well, which is an exciting place. And I think that this situation has helped us get to that point. I do sometimes look at what's going on around me with things like Clubhouse, and how email has just smashed it last year. We were 40% up in terms of leads coming into the business. And I thought to myself, this is really getting people to embrace digital. And they're like, oh, we can't get in the car and go see these people. How are we going to survive? And that has accelerated, B2B cold email. It's allowed solutions. I mean, I've spent time in meetings in VR recently, and that's been exciting. Yeah, it's been good. Cool.
Yeah. No, you're a bit of a futurist. I know you got this massive interest in.
But is it the future, Jacinda, or is it now?
Yes,
I think it's now. That stuff is now. What is the future? I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I've got my own ideas there, but I think that's now.
Yeah, no, I just got goosebumps thinking about that. Thinking, you're right. We're living it now, isn't it? It's just, speeded everything up, and it's more important more than ever now. It's exactly what you said. I mean, I've experienced that with existing clients who were a bit reluctant to go online, or the way they were doing things, but now they've had to shift that, and get online and do it in a different way, which I think is good for us as well, but it's good for them because they're now embracing the technology side of things. That's fabulous.
If you look at some traditional manufacturers, let's say a company that makes steel trays for catering, and sells to schools, well, they might have 300 customers and they may not need any more, and they've been plodding on for 30 years. Now suddenly they don't have their reps on the road anymore. They're not allowed to put them on the road because it's not considered to be an essential service. They're all sat at home. Most of them are furloughed, and they've still got to sell these racks. You know, they can't just turn the business off. It's like, well, how do we sell it? Well, where is everyone? Oh, they're online.
They're online.
And that's really so people from headmasters through to, you know, they're online now. I mean, my kids go to a school where every one of them's got an iPad.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everyone's online. That's where they are.
Definitely. Let's talk a bit
and
about.
Everyone's got an email as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, exactly. You know, let's talk a bit about the second thing about like what you guys do with the data and buying and selling emails and you know, connecting businesses to business, customers, all that kind of stuff, right? How does that side of things work? Like, how are you collecting the data? How are you putting that all together? How's that work?
In the UK, we're very lucky because we've got Companies House, which is, you know, it's entirely digital, and you've got to hand it to them. They've done a phenomenal job with that. The engineers within Companies House creating an API and all this kind of stuff, because we've got 54 million contacts globally. And so in certain states in the US, they haven't gone digital, and it is very difficult to do what we do. But in countries that have, like the UK, it's much easier because they've done a lot of the structure already, and they've then given anybody access to it. So we get the raw data from Companies House. We then find out where these companies are digitally, where do they exist, which is a website normally. Then we find out who is working at that company, and then we find out what the email addresses of those people are. And then we take them through compliance so that it is, you know, for EU GDPR, but over here in the UK, it's EDPA. And then finally, we've got other compliance with PECA and stuff like that. Once it's finished with all of that, we take the net available records and we make those available to our customers. And customers can come to us with a criteria, like I want to target manufacturers in the West Midlands with a turnover of more than £50 million, and I want to target the facilities manager. So maybe they're doing a CCTV system or something like that. We can take those individuals as an Excel spreadsheet, pass them through to that company, and that company can send out to them remaining fully compliant with GDPR, all of the different pieces of legislation. Then after a period of time, they send us back anybody who's unsubscribed, and obviously they have an increase in revenues. I mean, that's the whole point. They sell more trays.
Yeah. So no, you know, that just the kind of data protection side of stuff. Just anyone who's got concerns or questions about that. Yeah, you're right. We're fortunate. We've had data protection in the UK for a long time kind of thing, right? And so, and I know you guys have always followed the processes, everything that's got put in place in regards to that. But what are the kind of general guidelines when buying, you know, emails in bulk? What goes on there, just so people are aware of just in case they're worried about, you know, sending emails out, kind of thing?
Yeah. So what you're looking for are companies that have notified the contacts on their list that they've collected the information and that they're passing it to third parties. So that's the key of what you're looking for, and that is the basis of your compliance. You're looking at what lawful basis, what legal basis they're using to do that. Is it consent or is it legitimate interest? And you're looking to make sure that that has been carried out. And then when you get that data, you need to make sure that when you send to it, anybody who opts out tells, you know, you can make sure they don't receive anything else from you. And it's quite basic.
Yeah.
For the customer. For us, it was quite a process because it wasn't entirely clear until right at the end how the industry was going to function. Legitimate interest, don't forget, didn't come in until quite later on in the drafting of the legislation. And legitimate interest, as pointed out by the ICO on their blog post soon after the legislation came out, is an easier legal basis for businesses to use than consent when doing cold email outreach, and even when doing your own email. Because if you were to use consent, you don't forget, if that person comes to your website and they register, and let's say they register for your product, that doesn't mean that you can then sell to them by email if you're using consent. That just means that they get information notifications about the product. You have to, if you're using consent, you have to then ask them, would you also like to receive our newsletter? Would you also like to receive our sale? Anything else you do with that data, you've got to tell them. But if it's legitimate interest and you make that clear in your privacy policy and your privacy notification, then you're good to use it for, or have a legitimate interest to use it for your marketing or whatever else. And that's where the cold email outreach comes in.
So
I just made that sound really complicated, didn't I?
No, I'm just trying to
I didn't mean to. It is quite simple for the client. It's simple, but for us, it's been 4 years of work up to 2018.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's the I suppose the beauty about it, because having known you for such a long time, I know we've had conversations over the years about how you guys, do get that information, and I think it's fascinating the way that works, right? And you make it easy as possible for your clients. So, is the general process kind of like, they've got in touch with you, they're given a kind of criteria to say this is what we're after, and then you get that data. Is it sent over to them? Do they send it, or do you send it on their behalf?
Both. So we can do the campaign to it.
Okay.
Or they can do the campaign to it themselves. I mean, I've got clients that will send one email at a time to a list, and they will bespoke write each and every email. I know that you're the facilities manager for Viva PLC. I'm just wondering if you can tell me what security system you're using at the moment. Well, if that person replies and says, we don't actually have one, we don't have a solution in place right now, we're looking at what is available in the marketplace, you just generated yourself $1 billion lead. If you're a security company, and I know companies that do that, then of course you've got solutions that do that, but at scale. Then you've got companies that they just want you to do it for them, which is the campaign side of it. So there's lots of different ways of doing it.
Yeah. And then obviously when you do the campaign side of it, it's just the way the content is written and how it resonates with the reader. All that part of it comes into it as well, right?
We have a really good strategy that we've been working on and blogging about a lot recently, which is that if you've never spoken to a person before, then your first foot in the door has to be of value. So you should give away value initially. So that is really important. If you've got something, and it has to be a value, not to them, not just to you.
Yep.
It really has. So an online calculator, we've played around with quite a few of those. So an estate agent, we've got a company that does gigabit Ethernet connection, and the value that we've suggested that he gives to his clients is, if you're targeting estate agents, help them work out how much time they would save switching from a 10 megabit per second connection to a 1 gigabit connection, because they upload a lot of images. And so they will put in how many sales guys they've got, how many properties on their portfolio, blah, blah, and they'll see, I could save 72 hours a month if I switch to a 100 gigabit internet connection. Well, that's value. I'm like, right, I could save 72 hours a month. How much is that going to cost me? Then you've got, so that's your first email really is, look, I don't want anything, I'm just giving you this value. Then those people that engage off the back of that value, they've already seen the value of your product, So now they just want to know what the cost is. And that's where the call comes in, the conversation. Well, where are you? What's your postcode? Bing, bada bang, bada boom.
So what I'm getting from that is the importance of knowing your target audience, right? Doing the research on them, because you're giving like lots of, I could tell from what you're saying that you're giving a lot of business advice to them as well. Getting them to rethink how they're actually approaching their customers, and not just going in blind and say, well, actually, if you did this, it would work better because they're getting the value and they're understanding, and you're meeting them on their kind of buying decision, right?
Yeah.
So that's very, very important, that aspect of understanding your target audience, like inside out kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Are there any more tips that you want to give on how people can do that?
Oh, well, I mean, the ebook thing, I think people find the ebook thing a bit, it's a bit difficult to consume because it means that
Yes.
you have to sit down and read something, right? And the best tool in the world, it's probably going to be digital unless it's a hard book cover. And, we're in front of monitors all day at the moment. So I would just be easy with that stuff. Video, yeah, that's okay. But again, you're in front of a monitor. So if you're going to do anything on a monitor, it's got to be really short, simple, and get straight to the point, get straight to that value point. So, there are, I mean, a lot of companies use free trials, the company will come, they spend a few minutes testing something, and then they can see the value. Other companies do these calculators. There are things out there. And it's probably one of the things I enjoy talking to my clients most about is how do we realize the value of your product in the mind of the customer? And I really do enjoy those conversations. It's got nothing to do with email, yeah, but I enjoy those conversations because it helps me to think creatively. And what I then do is the email just comes off the back of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
those creative forums, it's almost as though sometimes I will actually look at a product and I will dig deeper on it until eventually I've cut through all the marketing, I've cut through all the sales, I've cut through all of that kind of spiel, and I've identified that one or two things that are of value to me. And then I work backwards. Right, now I know how this product is of value. How do I shift that value over to the customer? How do I get them to see it? Right, that's my calculator, or that's my ebook or video or whatever it is, or that's my VR headset experience. I don't know.
It's fantastic. It's the human psychology side of things, isn't it? It's going deep into it, really, really getting into like the nitty gritty.
Yeah,
it works.
I think it's important also to put an offer into your marketing. A lot of companies that I come across, they don't do offers. They have a product and they have a price, and they put that price and that product to market. But then I see campaigns that are very successful where they put that product price with an offer into the market. And that can be very interesting because an offer is time limited. You mentioned it being behavioral. It's time limited. It's maybe there's only 20 of them available, and this kind of thing. And that person seeing it now knows they've only got a short window to understand the value. So they're probably going to engage with you a little bit more than if it was just, look, these shoes are £100,
No, that's fascinating. I mean, I'm so grateful for you sharing that, because I think a lot of people get caught up in the noise of, click button riches and doing 1 second overnight and all this kind of stuff, when they don't realize that this is the kind of stuff that is needed to really get into it, so you can actually come up with a really good campaign, a meaningful campaign, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the companies that do it the best I've seen are the car leasing companies in the B2B arena, the car leasing companies and the software as a service companies. They've got some brilliant marketers, those guys. They know what kind of a car you're probably going to buy, and they give you an offer that you simply can't resist. And or they know what challenge you've got at business, at work, and they give you a software application that you're like, wow, this is going to solve everything. And they are some clever cookies in those companies. And then you've got other industries that aren't as used to it, who are kind of dabbling, and when they dabble and it doesn't work, they think the channel doesn't work, which is and it's sacrilege, really. It's like trying a Facebook campaign, it doesn't work, and it's like, oh, Facebook doesn't work. Okay. Or trying a Google PPC campaign and it doesn't work, it's like, oh, well, Google doesn't work. Or an email campaign and it doesn't work, it's like, oh, email doesn't work. It's like you can't dabble, you have to get into it. And that's, I guess, with having done it for 20 years, that's why we're asked to help by a lot of companies, because we've done it for so long. you wouldn't go to a PPC guy who probably has just started and let him determine whether or not that channel to market is going to work for you or not. You probably test a few until eventually you've made that decision for yourself.
Yeah, that's another whole side of things, is like the whole testing of things. That's, elements of things that you have to do to see what is going to work as well, right? We could be here all night in those kind of
so
let's hold up for another time there. Let's quickly talk about the AI thing you mentioned, and then that'd be quite interesting. I mean, how are you utilizing AI in, I suppose, data mining, putting things together, putting it out there? What's happening in that arena?
Okay, so if we just turn off the AI kind of slang word for a moment and think about it as clever computers, or any computer could be clever, but computers that are programmed to do clever things. That's really what's going on. And the challenges that we're finding in the industry, when we talk about them, people are saying, oh, I could create something that will help you solve that challenge, solve that problem, without having to spend more money. In fact, I'm going to reduce how much money you're spending. An example of this would be copywriting. As I mentioned earlier, I really struggle with copywriting because it takes time. It's a real talent. You've got to know what you're doing. However, I tested a solution this afternoon where I put 3 or 4 words in and it wrote me 200 words of copy. And I can copy that and paste it into a campaign and send that campaign and look to see what the result of that campaign is. Now, that's not artificial intelligence. There's not even any machine learning in there. It's just a clever computer. But where machine learning as part of, let's say, an AI movement is coming from is, well, if this person responds to this email and this person doesn't and that person does, and we take all of those results, and then we take the next email and change it based on all of those results that we've learned, what happens? Oh, so this happens, right? Okay, so now if we take all of those results and now implement them into our next email. So that's kind of where things are going, is that how can we improve the effectiveness of our campaigns using this technology that you'd have to have 100 copywriters in a room full time and a load of data analysts in order to get what these machines give you in a few seconds. The artificial intelligence element on top of that would be where it starts to say, okay, so stop all of what you're doing and just send this email to this one person, because that person is going to be most likely to open that email, read that text, and react positively to that text. And it's not because you've just done some data sorting. It's because it's looked at everybody like him that has responded. It's weighted the responses, and then it's worked out what the profile should be of the person most likely to buy a product, and then it's found him. And we're probably a little bit away from that, I would have thought, but there's some solutions that are saying that they're getting closer to that kind of place. I'm not sure if we want to be there too quickly, but I think we're certainly getting there. And some of the things that I'm finding when I'm looking at this is that it might also bring a new area of privacy into it, because I can see a future where people will go into systems and say, look, I will tell you what I want you to know about me, and then you can introduce suppliers to me. But if they're rubbish, I'm never going to use your system again. But if they're really, really valuable to me and they allow me to scale my business 10x next year, I'm going to love your system. That's where, some of these algorithms could really, we can see that you're, if you upload all of your data from Salesforce, upload all of your emails, and then it says, right, go and talk to this person. That's powerful stuff, that, especially if that person then 10x's your business,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I just, I love that. You're right that it's clever computing. Because what they're able to it's coded, it's the way they put the content together, the data put together, and the way it calculates and segments and puts the messages out. It is really, really clever. You're right. The AI side of it just makes it sound, I suppose sometimes it's positive and a negative, right? Because just what you hear in the world. But yeah, the clever computing side of it is fantastic. I'm so intrigued as to what's going to keep coming from all of this space, right? It's
especially with the cryptocurrency movement as well, where we've got immutable ledgers where we know this person talked to this person, or we know that this something or other has a relationship to this something or other because it's available on a public ledger, and we know that that's happened. And that could be hugely interesting, because you've then got 2 or 3 different worlds colliding, really. You've got an enormous volume of data. You've got a way to protect the privacy of that data in an immutable ledger, but you've also got businesses that are demanding scale, demanding growth, and they have hundreds of millions, if not billions, in the bank to spend on achieving that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Duncan, it's been fascinating, man. I mean, like I said, we could go on all night.
We could go on all night,
right?
No, it's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Any last words you want to share with the audience?
Really, just make it personal. If it's your email, make it personal, and it does work. You got to just write the right email to the right person at the right time, and you will have a positive reply. There was one thing really that I was explaining to a client the other day, that don't always expect clicks to your website when you're doing an email marketing program. Sometimes, especially right now, people don't want to see your website. They just want to reply to your email. So put in as a call to action, if you want to reply to me and jump on a call, I'm here. That is just at the bottom of your email. And you might find that people are like, okay, I'll reply. Yeah, I'm interested. Let's jump on a call. That people like that personal touch right now.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. I mean, it's just if people want to talk to people, they want that human connection, and that's so relevant to
it's a bit of a break in your day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Make a coffee, have a little break, chat to this guy. No pressure. Not, it's just, how do I solve this problem? And then at the end, I'll decide whether or not I think, you're the man to do it, or you're the woman to do it for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic, man. Yeah. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So Duncan@emailmovers.com is my email, but I'm also on Twitter, Duncan Gledhill, and LinkedIn, obviously, the email guy. So it's the email guy. Pretty straightforward, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
Duncan, that's been fantastic. I really, really appreciate it. I hope the viewers have got value from that. And, if you've got questions, reach out. We're here to help as much as we can, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much, Duncan.
Thanks for inviting me along, Jatinder. I've loved it.
Thank you.
Okay, buddy.